Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining the Business of Art. I'm your host, Matt Polson. We are here with esteemed artist John Price. John, pleasure to meet you.
You too.
Because this is one of those rare instances where we're literally just meeting for the first time.
First time.
So we were introduced by Sean. How do you know Sean?
I met Sean by accident.
Okay.
He was my neighbor. I used to, he bought an art piece from me. I painted the monuments when they came down, when the world fell apart in 2020. And when I moved to Rosewood, I went around. I have this habit of going around and just knocking on doors, say, hey, I'm your neighbor, and I'm not trying to sell you anything, but just this is who I am. And I gave him a card, and he said, John Price, I think I have some of your art. And I was like, really? And he invited me in, and sure enough, he had that painting in his house, and he was my neighbor the whole time. So
that's very cool.
And then we just had a really good relationship. I used to do art shows in my house, and he would come, and he's collected quite a few pieces of mine. He's just an all-around good guy. So.
Yeah, he's a good guy. We're in the same networking group that has been featured many times on the podcast. I want to preface by saying this is intentionally not a political podcast.
Okay.
But what inspired you to paint the monuments as they were coming down?
I like to capture what I see. I'm inspired by life, the things that I see, places that I go. And for a while I had been painting Richmond. I'd been painting just the stereotypical landscapes. And I had painted the monuments in the past just because it was a historical place, whatever. And when people started, rioting, and they started, spray painting them. Graffiti. I couldn't think of a good word.
I was working with fourth graders today, and that word came up. That's the only reason I.
Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say vandalize. People were like, "It wasn't vandalism." I was like, I'm just seeing what I say. And so I went out there with my easel, set up one day, and I'm just like, what the hell? Let me paint. And so I painted it. I figured this is probably gonna be an iconic moment. Even at the time, I thought, even if nothing happens, everyone's going to remember this moment when this, it world fell apart. And then I took that and I painted a really, really highly detailed painting of it, and I put it on display. And within just a few weeks, it was gone. Sean had bought it, but originally it wasn't anything political. It was just I wanted to capture that moment. Yeah. And when I put it on Facebook, the amount of people that came out. We got so many threads like, that's not art, and I'm like, no, it is art. You may not like it, but that'd be like me taking a photograph and you saying that's not a photograph.
Right, I was gonna say
it really is. You don't have to like it, and that's fine. You may not.
If I remember, because I do think I remember the pieces going around, or that piece in particular going around at the time, and it's like, yeah, what are you talking about? That's just it's no different than a photograph, except somebody painted it.
Exactly. And someone threw a Budweiser can at us and yelled, cussing at me while I was painting. I was like, Jesus, I haven't even taken a stance, because I didn't know at the time. I'm just I didn't realize it was going to be so volatile on either side.
Right, that's so weird.
I got right in the middle of it, and I thought, well, this is interesting. So yeah.
And no, what happened to, again, not a political podcast.
No,
but
go ahead.
What happened where I thought art was supposed to bring people together?
That is.
When did that change?
Art has never brought people together. It brings sections together.
Yeah, you're right.
So you
paint,
right. Something for somebody, and their group likes that thing, but other people are like, oh, that's trash, that's awful. What were you thinking? You're awful. You should die. And
you're 100% right. I'm sure there are people out there who hate the musical Oklahoma.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hamilton got so much flack and that's one of my favorite in a musical.
Yeah. I think Hamilton, though, probably it wasn't in the intent of the art, but Lin-Manuel Miranda knew that was going to ruffle some feathers.
Oh, absolutely. That's the thing. Controversy brings it puts people in the spotlight.
Of course,
and sometimes
I
think sometimes controversy is needed to bring light to a subject. But I think people who do controversy for controversy's sake.
What do you mean by it's needed sometimes? Can you give an example?
Well, for example, for the monuments.
Right.
There were people who, I drove past it all the time when I worked at Wine and Design. I didn't think anything of it. It was just, you drive past monuments in any city, and you just know that something happened there with a thing, with a person,
Right.
and it was significant, good or bad. And what happened was the amount of art that came out of that brought light to a political position, a personal issue, a social situation, and it forced our nation to do something that it wasn't going to happen had George Floyd not been murdered. I'm sorry, it would have never happened. That was the catalyst that kind of set things off, and it that art brought to life something that maybe people weren't thinking. So, yeah, and there's a photo some gentleman did. I used to know his name, where he did a drone shot right over the monuments with all of it, and it was just so powerful. And
did he get hate?
I'm sure he got a lot of hate.
I'm sure I'm so shocked by that.
You would never guess. You would never guess. So
that's why I just post these clips online and pretty much nothing else in my life, and I try and pick the least toxic clips possible.
I mean, at some point you can't please everybody.
No.
At some point you're going to post something and someone's going to say, I can't believe you did that. How dare you? And you're going to be like, Jesus Christ, I just posted the thing. I didn't even say anything. So, and then you're associated with it.
And I know that my attitude on the inside, let me say that the other way. I know that my attitude on the outside will be, well, I don't care. But I know that my attitude on the inside will be like, I want everyone to like me.
Yeah. Well, I think, everyone who says that, they're like, I don't care what anybody says. They can, and explicitive here and there. But deep inside, they're like, I just wanted to make a post. That's all I wanted to do. And people get, and that's all I wanted to do. I was just painting a picture, and it turned into something. And what happened was it actually opened my eyes to a lot of things with social issues and, that I hadn't thought of before. And I think, a lot of times people are like, why isn't anybody angry about this? It's like, Jesus, I can only be angry about so many things. I can't be angry about every single social issue. My healthcare costs are going up. I'm angry about that. You there with me on that? No. Okay, why not? So, yeah.
Well, let's just go all the way back.
All right, let's do it.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Augusta, Georgia, about 10 minutes from the Masters golf tournament.
Yes, indeed. You're talking to a golfer here.
Yeah, my dad, he hated the Masters golf.
What it did to your town.
No, well, that's the only time they cleaned that dump hole up, as he would say. Those are his words. He loved Augusta, Georgia. There was a gut to him. There was Augusta, Georgia, and the rest of the United States.
Yeah.
And he hated it because of he found out and you can quote me on this because it's on camera.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't say it if you don't.
No, I'll tell you what, I'm going back on something he said. So if somebody ever look at it and they're like, that didn't really happen. Hey, I'm just going off of what he said. He had found out that during the Masters, they took the homeless and they would put them on a bus and send them over to Columbia, South Carolina for about 2 weeks, and put them in a hotel, and then after that they would bring them back. And he was ticked on that. What are you going to do with that? It's my tax dollars and blah blah blah. And it was, and again, I don't even know if that's true. I'm just remember him angry about that. He's like, they don't want to do anything about the homeless, but then when the rich people come in, and so he was upset about that.
It definitely sounds like it could have been a wives' tale, but also sounds like it could have been true.
Possibly.
And yeah, knowing what I know about that course and that tradition out there, it's definitely believable.
It is something. What is that? Truth is stranger than fiction. So it's a possibility. That's where I grew up. I grew up in Augusta, Georgia, and so yeah, that's where I spent my childhood.
All the way through high school.
All the way through high school. I went in the military right after I got out of high school. And got out of the military at Fort Lee, or is it Fort Lee still?
It's not anymore.
What is it now?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, it's whatever fort it is now.
The artist formerly known as Fort Lee.
Yeah. One of them is it Fort Walker? Mary Walker?
I think that might be right.
Yeah, she was a total badass. I love Mary Walker. So yeah,
I don't know who it is.
Oh, Mary Walker is the only woman to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Wow.
Yeah, she was she fought for the Union. She was I don't remember if she was a spy, but what she did, if you read her story, she's one of those women who she just doesn't get enough. She just doesn't get enough play.
She's the second famous Walker.
Yeah.
Maggie Walker.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, Maggie Walker.
She takes the cake in Richmond anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so what branch of you went in the Army?
I was in the Army. I did 6 years. And
what years was this?
1998 to 2004.
Oh boy, what a time to be there.
Oh yeah. So I was in 9/11 happened in September, and like 2 weeks later I think we were in Egypt. So that's where we were. They had us there. They said for a training mission. That could be true. I don't know, but that's where we were, and for about 2 months, I think, and then we came back, and then first unit deployed, and so on out. So, but
did you have like a specialty?
Well, yes and no. I was when I went into the military. When I took the ASVAB, I tested for petroleum. That was I didn't test that high. And at the time they were like, there are 212 ways to be a soldier, that whole thing. And so I was like, well, are there any like illustration or art jobs? And, I thought there were like 212 ways to be a soldier. And my recruiter said, well, not for you. I mean,
that's not one of them.
Yeah. He's like, you got petroleum, water, and something else. And I was like, and I was told that there was no, the military doesn't do art. That's not what we do. And I would find out later on that they do. It's a 25 Mike, which is a multimedia illustrator. But I was at my first duty station, and one of my sergeants saw my portfolio, and that's when they were like, hey, and then I got shoved into doing design and murals and stuff for the military. So,
okay.
But my official job on my DD-214 is a 92 Fox, which is petroleum. So.
Then what does that mean exactly? I mean, obviously oil, obviously
yeah,
gas.
So everything from, petroleum operations to, the joke was laying pipe, but pipeline operations.
Okay.
And so I did that in Iraq for a little over a year.
So you're getting fuel from where it is to your troops, basically.
You're getting fuel from somewhere, and it's being processed somewhere. And so whatever you're doing, whether it's refueling aircraft, which I never got to do, to, putting the pipelines in the ground, fuel back berms, it's really tedious, boring, to me, stuff, and I absolutely hated every day that I was out there. So I know I'm supposed to be, July 4th is coming up. I'm supposed to, but I wasn't excited about doing it.
You can love your country and hate your job. That's fine.
Okay. I'm going to use that. I do love America, but I hated what I did.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most people have felt that way at some point in their life, even if they weren't in the military. It's like, I love America, but this job sucks.
Yeah. That was my everyday that I wasn't doing some kind of illustration or design or things like that.
How deep into your 6-year tenure before you were doing design stuff?
It was actually fairly quick. My first duty station was Fort Wainwright, Alaska. And I would say probably within the first month, First Sergeant Murphy saw, he found out that I don't know who told him that I did art, but he said, hey, I need you to come do some artwork for me. And he had me working 7 days a week for him. Which I didn't know at the time that he wasn't supposed to be working me 7 days a week. But sometimes when you get so high up as an NCO or officer, you can kind of get away with stuff like that. But it kept me out of the field a lot of times. It kept me out of going on deployments a lot of times. So I was fine. I'll go paint in the first sergeant's office on a Saturday and Sunday, but I'm not away from my home for a month doing stupid stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff are you painting?
Murals, like military stuff, things that make you when
Eagles.
you walk. Yeah, eagles, making when you feel proud to be a soldier. Special forces paintings.
Yeah.
I was not special forces. I wasn't that much of an alpha male, so I didn't get the whole hula hula busting indoors. But yeah, that was anything that shows the brute strength and force of like the firefights and stuff. I was a petroleum unit. We didn't go do that stuff. You don't want to be near, missiles and bombs near a petroleum field. That is the last place you want to be. So we didn't see all that stuff. But it's what they showed on the TV. That's what you saw in the commercials. So that's what they wanted me to paint. Things that replicated stereotypical military life.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Any pieces that stand out?
I designed some military coins, but nothing that really I would look back and say, oh yeah, I was proud of that piece right there.
Like the coins that people give out.
Yeah, those coins that people. I've got like one or two still somewhere in here that I designed that I can say, oh, that's my. But I have. It's not like you put your signature on it. So,
No,
yeah.
I've gotten one before. We actually have friends who manufacture those.
Really?
They do very well for themselves. Friends of the family, I should say.
Yeah, there was a guy I worked for down in Colonial Heights. His family owned the award shop, and they did them for the military. I guess the military was contracting them out. So.
And so, what did you do when you got out of the military?
A lot of dead end jobs. So.
You didn't go to college?
I not when I got out of the military. I sold cars. I worked for Owens Corning. I did a lot of sales jobs, and I absolutely sucked at sales. I was awful at sales. It was horrible. I couldn't sell anything.
Honestly, it's hard to imagine somebody who's a really talented painter being good at sales.
Oh yeah,
it's just I've never.
Yeah.
You don't see that. Very often.
I don't know if that's a joke or anything.
No, I'm just kind of playing off of the stereotype of the
starving artist.
I wouldn't. I was going to say tortured artist of like I have to get this art out of my system.
Oh yeah, well then they're homeless. Like Picasso.
Yeah.
Picasso burned. Wasn't it the story? He burned a lot of his early paintings because he had to stay warm. So but I mean, and then I got an opportunity to go to work overseas in Iraq as a civilian working for Kellogg Brown and Root. So I worked there for about a year and a half, a little over a year, and I came back with necrotizing pneumonia, and that almost killed me. But while there, I took online courses and then finished out my degree here. I worked while going to school. I worked at doing pest control, and would go to school, and then after that, I went to started working for some publishing companies, and then ultimately doing social painting companies like Paint Night, Wine and Design, and then ultimately live wedding paintings, and just about I'm what they call a multi-passionate creative. That's the technical term.
Were any of these your business along the way, other than what you're doing now?
I was part owner of Wine and Design, and then the owner kind of sold it out from under me. And then I just kind of went into this full time in 2020 when the world fell apart.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's been able to be a full-time thing for you?
Yes, as of about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
The first year was, 2020, it was really difficult. And then
not much sales of anything.
2021
I
I made really good money, but it all went right back into the business. 2022 was a little bit better. 2023 was my best year so far. And then this year has been really, I'm busy every single weekend. I'm busy like 7 days a week. But now, instead of working for First Sergeant Murphy, I'm working for myself. So.
And when you're doing the live weddings, are people just finding you directly?
They're finding me through wedding expos, wedding planners. They're finding me through social media.
So you're out there.
I'm out there. You have to whore yourself out to kind of get out there.
Yeah.
And someone's always looking for a deal. There's another live wedding painter who can do it better or does it different. They use watercolor. I'm like this.
Go ahead.
I've been doing it since 2016,
Yeah.
and
You hire that other person.
I would
then,
really encourage you to hire them. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm coming to terms with that with my video business too. Like, I just think about all the time. You see, there's this one account. I think I've talked about it on the pod before, but there's this one account, and it's a guy that he's showing on the top half of the screen. It's a commercial. On the bottom half of the screen, it's him going through the numbers of what it would cost to produce that commercial. Mm-hmm. And the example that I always use is basic kitchen setup, middle-aged dad and his kid, everything takes place in the kitchen. It's just a bunch of montage shots of them doing fun stuff in the kitchen. Okay?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think that cost in this guy's video?
I mean, if it's... okay, because I'm ignorant of what goes into it. I don't know what that would cost.
What would you guess?
Okay, I'm going to be stupid. $5,000. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think most people would think $5,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm wrong.
It was
clearly.
like $70,000. And because it was like, we've got a grip, we've got a second AC, we've got this, we've got that, we've got this. And I'm just like, what is going on here? Like, who is spending all of this money on all of these things when people are not, that's not what people are consuming right now. People are consuming videos that are made with people's phones.
Oh, no, most of my stuff is through phones. You know what it is? It's these, okay, have you ever seen these TikTok videos? I know, high quality production right there, where like a woman will say, and I'm being totally stereotypical, I know this, where a woman will say, why does a man have to pay for this? Well, my lipstick is $40. This is $60. My mascara is this. And somebody is like, first of all, nobody asked you to spend all that.
Right.
Second of all, I know for a fact, this one guy, I don't know if it was a guy or a woman, said, you know, this cost, like this tube of lipstick costs, you know, $40, but you get 300 uses from it, so it costs you 3 cents. And he went through everything. He's like, you're not buying brand new lipstick for every date, you know, like, so, you know, someone says, oh, the camera cost me, you know, $12,000. It's like, yeah, and you're going to use it for 3 years, so what are you talking about? Let's do the numbers on that. So
No, yeah, and this is like, you know, and the rates that people are charging in these videos are totally reasonable rates, but it's like they have a director who maybe they're getting like $2,000 a day or something like that, which is, I mean, it's not nothing for sure, but they're gonna have them for 3 days. I'm like, 3 days for this little commercial?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Why do you need him for 3 days? And why do you have a crew of 15 people for this small commercial?
Do they ever go into like why they need it? Because I mean,
the comments are amazing.
Yeah.
The comments are all over the place. It's like, I think it would be more than that. I'd be like, you guys are nuts, you know?
Yeah.
It's just
Okay. All right. My favorite movies are The Lord of the Rings, and better than Lord of the Rings.
I have a Lord of the Rings tattoo right here. I'll show you later.
Okay, I would really.
Yeah, I'll show you later.
I've done a whole Lord of the Rings painting series.
Oh, amazing.
So yes, we will do.
Yeah, we'll nerd out later.
Okay. Yes. Oh my goodness. So in the behind the scenes, the lady who plays Eowyn says when she's like, he pulls her helmet off, she's like, I am no man, and she says that they must have shot that, I don't know, for, you know, 3 days straight. And I'm like, for what? And she finally said that she told Peter, this is it. This is the last shot. And that's the one they used it. And she did that same thing for 3 days. And I'm like, for what?
Yeah.
Why did you need to do that? You didn't need to. And he still missed a lot of mistakes in the movie. So obviously he was just, I don't know. Anyway.
I know. Well, hey, at least you can criticize your favorite movie.
You should be able to.
Absolutely.
You should be able to. It's my favorite movie, but that orc is clearly CGI.
No, it's not. It's not perfect, but it is, I think, the greatest cinematic achievement. Like in terms of, especially because it was undertaken at one time. Like you might be able to look at an entire series, like Star Wars or whatever, and be like, "Well, that whole series is," but that's not. They didn't film that all at once.
Yeah.
It was one undertaking. He knew he was doing all three at one time, and then they filmed for 2.5 years, and then went back for like 8 months of reshoots or something like that. Yeah. So.
No, Did you catch it when it was at the Bird?
We saw one of them.
Really?
Yeah, not all three. We saw one of them.
I want to catch it with the orchestra when they do the live.
Yeah.
I don't care if I have to cash in my 401k.
Yeah.
If I have a wedding that night, I'm just gonna be like, hey, look, I got leg cancer. I can't make it.
So are you doing weddings almost every weekend, like this time of year?
No, actually, July and August are always the slow months.
Too hot?
Most people are doing destinations or really, really indoor weddings. And so I might have one in August, but and that's the way it's kind of been. September, I'm booked up every weekend. October, I'm booked up every weekend. November, I'm booked up almost every weekend. December, it kind of slows back down. And then it's kind of sporadic and steady. January, again, is slow. February, iffy. March, April, May, and then June starts to... And so this is my first weekend. No, last weekend was my first weekend where I didn't have a wedding. And so all of July that's my month where I'm just allowed to do murals and paint for myself and stuff.
And what percentage of the painting, when you're doing the live wedding paintings, like, do you have done by the end of the wedding?
It depends on the level of detail they're wanting and the size of the painting. I get about 90% of the painting done. If it's an outdoor wedding where I don't go in at all and there's no ability to light it, then I only get like 70% of it. But I also take soil from the area. People get married and I kind of grind it up into the paint, so they'll always have like a piece of the land they said their vows.
That's cool.
And so I can't do that there because I have to adhere it, at the house. And so just kind of things like facial features, or they may say, hey, can we put our dog hit in the painting? Right. Or, my father passed away 5 years ago. Can you put him in? So it's a good, 90% that's finished, and then, touch-ups throughout the house.
Right.
So, yeah.
So break down for me what other type of painting gigs you're doing.
I do a lot of mural work. I've got a mural that's coming up at Swift Creek Mill Theater.
Yeah.
That's coming up at the end of this month. I have a meeting with them next week.
Who are you working with over there?
Jennifer.
Okay.
Procis.
Yeah.
I'm working with her, and the art director. He told me his name.
Tom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've done a bunch of shows out there.
Yeah, the mill is the Swift Creek Mill is crazy. I actually went out there with a friend of mine today, and we were like doing some plein air painting at the creek. And so I'm doing a mural for them, and I have a lot of commission work that I'm catching up on. Sorry, it's not.
No, you're all good.
And I'm working on. This is the time where I get to do a lot of work for. I do a lot of fan art, like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. I do a lot of those Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and Star Wars travel posters. There's, Visit Mordor, the hottest place in Middle Earth, and stuff like that. Tatooine, twice the sun, twice the fun. Stuff like that.
Very interesting.
So what'll happen is I'll paint those on canvas, and then I download them in Illustrator and put the text. And I do write short stories and self-publish those. And so I actually paint the covers on canvas.
Paint what? The covers?
I paint that's the cover of a book I wrote.
Okay.
And then I'll just lay in the text for it. And that's one that's over there. That's in July.
But that's a painting.
That's a painting. And so what I do is I scan that in, and that becomes the cover of the book.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. So you paint it first, and then
I missed that old years ago. Whenever I started out doing book covers, they were all still traditionally hand painted. And then Photoshop and Illustrator came in, and you could no longer take a month.
I've been doing it all day.
I didn't know if it was something in the house, if it was the dog, if it was
all day.
me,
Woke
or
up sneezing.
Something. Yeah. And then I just I don't even know what I was saying, but yeah. So.
A sneeze will do that too, even if it's not your sneeze.
So it used to be where you could take a month to hand paint the cover, but then it was like, hey, we need it in a week, and then it came to, hey, we need it in 48 hours, and then now with Canva, and I do less book cover designs, so now I do them for myself.
Yeah. But you were doing them were you working with like an agent or something like that?
No, I was working with different publishing companies, so they would contract you, and it's like one of your, I forget the lady who was saying it, like the three-legged stool. So yeah, I do a lot of commission work. Then I have work in different stores. So yeah.
We have a very cute dog that's trying to be on camera.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
That's little Jada, and yeah, she sees me and she gets worried that he could be trying to murder him. I just want to make sure things are okay.
Verdict's still out on that one. We'll see.
It depends on how much I, put down Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, no. So my wife had never seen them when we got married, so that was fun.
Was that like a breaking point? Like, hey, we got to do this.
It was definitely like, we have to do this in order. You have to be in. It wasn't like we have to do this right now. It was like, you have to at least show interest in this.
Yeah, of course.
And that's
of course.
She showed interest from round one, and it took us a while to actually get to watch them, but we did, and she loved them. And then we went and saw it at the Bird. I think we saw the first one.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. When Linnann and I started talking, we made up a movie list, and we watched a lot of hers, like Fried Green Tomatoes, and every single chick flick that she liked. I know she can hear me. She's in the next room, and that's fine.
What's the one about the hairdressers?
The hairdresser.
Steel Magnolia.
Steel Magnolias.
No, but I'm just.
We
just
watched
guessing.
that while they cried through it, and I'm like, I don't. If you don't have anything nice to say, come sit by me, which I love that line.
It's a great. Yeah, it's classic.
And so I sat there, and they were good movies. I mean, I like to pick on her, and I think 3 years in, I was like 4 years, and I was like, no, wait. We had to do Lord of the Rings. This is not And I forced her to watch the Ten Commandments, which is one of my favorite. The whole 1956 Charlton Heston overacting, ridiculous stage. It's over the top. But I love that movie. It's a childhood movie, so yeah.
I grew up on Jesus of Nazareth. Did you ever see that one?
I did not. I didn't get to watch TV as a kid.
Oh, okay. So, that's a good one if you're into that. It's a good movie. It's like 4 hours.
Oh yeah. Is that like Ben-Hur? So
yeah.
It was very limited the movies we could watch as kids, and we had to go to our grandma's if we were going to watch TV.
Okay.
So that we saw like a very small handful of movies.
So did you grow up in like a conservative household?
Oh dear. I'm going to make Linnann cringe with this. I actually grew up in a cult. And my
Get into it.
So my parents were very strong. They were originally Pentecostals. And so they left the Pentecostal church and started, there was, I'll try to be brief with it because it's actually quite lengthy. And they started following this man who believed that his ministry would forerun the second coming of Jesus Christ. Not that he was Jesus Christ, but that you had to believe Jesus and his message to go into the rapture.
So he was a modest man. He wasn't.
He was. Yeah. So you have those clarifying statements. Not me. I didn't say that. And so my parents went into that, and regardless of how horrible it was for my brother and me or the men, it was really difficult for the women, the girls. The fact that my sisters are sane, rational human beings still shocks me to this day. And then he died in 1965. My parents still followed his ministry. They followed his message, but he was like really good friends with Jim Jones and so some other like cult leaders, and so and then I went into the military and kind of like left all that behind me. So we didn't. There was extremely strict like upbringing, and a lot of abuse, more verbal abuse and physical, though physical abuse came. And that's we were always in church. We listened to sermons, and if the pastor was out of town, we actually would play his tapes on those old cassette tapes, during times when the pastor wasn't there. So
was there a name to this?
They called themselves Message Believers.
Message Believers.
So
this is in Georgia, obviously.
No, it's actually worldwide. So to try to do a quick version of it. So back in like the early 1900s, there were these like the Azusa Street revival with the speaking in tongues took place in California, and from that there began these like massive healing revivals, tent revivals, and out of there came a guy who's kind of obscure now. His name was William Branham, and he had all these visions and all these prophecies, and he would like tell people things that were going on in their lives. And there was this photograph. If you Google it, just Google supernatural photograph. Supernatural cloud, and there's this picture of him at the now demolished Sam Houston Coliseum with this light over his head. It's not a trickery. It's a real light that's hovering over his head. And so he used that to say, "Hey, God must, really, I'm the special one. You got to believe me." And whether people were healed at his sermons and stuff, I don't know. I don't get into that. But he had all these like prophetical things that he would teach, and later on, I don't remember who it was. I think it was the Freedom of Information Act. They were able to get into some of the documents of photographs that were shot during that time. And there was a photograph of a cloud over Tucson, Arizona, that was put in Life magazine, and it was like 26 miles wide and so many miles, whatever. And when it was in Life magazine, they said it was a supernatural cloud, that at where it is, moisture doesn't exist, so it had to have been something supernatural. They didn't have a phrase for it. And so this prophet claimed that he was in this cloud during it happened, because that's the only way it could have happened. Yeah.
The prophet himself was?
Yeah. He was taken up in it. So anyway, so you're like, how did you get into this? I was a kid. I was raised in it, so I believed it. So, but anyway, after a lot of documents were released, kind of find out the Air Force had shot off a Thor missile during that time, and because it was going off course, they detonated it, and it turned into this cloud. And so it was not a supernatural cloud or anything. But anyway, that light that was over that guy's head, come to find out, it was a light, a stage light way off in the background that just forced perspective, a Lord of the Rings term. It looked like it was over his head. And so that kind of like, shut down a lot of the message beliefs. But yeah, but that's my story, raised up in that. And it was really strict, and it was a lot of fear. It was a lot of fear-based stuff that you have to believe this or you cannot go into the rapture. You will not go in. And a lot of people are like, well, once you find out it's not real, then just leave. And it's like, yeah, okay, fine. Tell a woman who's in an abusive situation, no, you can just leave. There are systems in place. Why do you keep going back to him? Obviously, it's not that bad. Like, you would never tell someone that. So you leave it, but there's a part of you in your back of your mind that's always like, but I wonder. Even though you know the sky's not green, it's blue. I can see that. But this guy told me it was green. So, yeah.
Has there been any documentaries made about this cult?
I think there have been like some small term ones. Usually when they talk about Jim Jones and David Koresh, they kind of leave out him, but he's kind of like the foundation of he was really, he was very charismatic, as a lot of them are. They're you listen to a lot of your best speakers, they're generally very charismatic, whether they're good or bad. Whether it's Ronald Reagan or Barack Obama or whoever, like they're very charismatic in how they deliver things, and people go, huh.
Did you see that Hitler thing where they took his really famous speech and translated it to English with AI?
I was.
It was so compelling.
Yes, because he sounds weird and crazy, but then when they put it in, he's like, I've bled for you, and I'm
it's like so normal.
Oh, yeah, I can see why now. Yeah, it was crazy.
Was wild.
Yeah. I think I saw it on Rogan or something like that.
The German accent just has that harshness that's like, if you're speaking really intensely, it sounds like you're angry.
Yeah, well, thank goodness for people knock AI, but I mean they were able to do that, I guess, through AI to pull that how he would sound if he was speaking in English, and I just thought, I was like, this is crazy.
I want to be very clear. Hitler bad.
Well, yes. You need to run a disclaimer part of this. I'm just it was.
We're just saying that it sounded normal.
Yeah, this is the one that's going to get you're getting shut down, baby. You will never work in this town again.
I'm going to go from getting fired from SNL to hosting SNL with this one right here.
Yeah. Like, somebody's going to watch this clip and they're like, we noticed there's like an area where it jumps. Like, I don't know.
Oh, no, I make cuts for sure. I do make cuts. Mostly it's cutting out my own ums, because I'll go, and then a big pause. And so I'm just cutting.
Oh, you let your guests flounder all over themselves, and everyone's like, he is so well spoken, but his guests are just weird.
That's so true. No. I will cut out any bad guest moments too. We just haven't had any yet.
Good. Let's hope it stays there. Let's do an Ira Glass where it's always who is it?
No, I was going to say I don't know. I know who Ira Glass is, but
who's This American Life? Or
that's Ira Glass.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He's always calm and nice, and This American Life.
He's such a pro.
Yeah. No controversy, and hey, he's under the radar. That's great. So,
what is the biggest? I hesitate to say. I know what I want to say. I'm just hesitating to say it. So I'm just going to say it.
Go ahead.
And then we can unpack the question.
All right, go ahead.
What has been your biggest commercial success as an artist?
Oh it's hard to weigh that because I don't know the long terms of some of them that are consistently going on. So, for example, the monument painting that I did that Sean bought, that one sold for quite a bit of money. But in print sales, I've made 10 times that amount in print sales. I wrote a book of presidents, and I drew all the presidents of the United States and did a very R-rated biography of all of them, which is not for your kids or your church group. And Greg McQuaid did a story on me. That would be what I consider a big commercial success. The book didn't sell like immediately. I barely sold any. But then over the last year, sales have been consistent with that. So I can't, it's a variety of things where I'll consistently get called or talked, hey, I saw this thing that you did a year or so ago. Do you still have that print, or do you still, and it's not uncommon for someone to want to buy a painting that's already been sold because they saw it somewhere else. So like a picture of it online somewhere. So it's hard to say that specific thing when it's been a variety of, I would say that's the one with the monument, the one that kind of like set things off, that I was like, oh dear, this could be, an actual career. So
it's interesting. I mean, if you think about it, like that is the most relevant pop culture thing to happen in your city in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, that and
our city.
That and all the breweries that have popped up. Yeah, no, you're right. So we have 40 with a Richmond address.
Yeah. No, that's been a slow burn though.
No, that's true.
Because Hardywood was a long time ago, and then there's a couple other like Ardent that came out, and there's like
Legend
a few,
and Strange Ways.
Legend was way before Hardywood. You're right, Legend was way, but Hardywood sort of like started the boom. I feel like.
Yeah.
But now it's like there's a new one every week in Scott's Edition.
Oh yeah, and for every 2 that shuts down, 3 open up, and this one moved, and So.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to try them all.
You should. During COVID, I went and painted all the breweries.
Did you?
I did, and put them on like a Richmond brewery poster for everyone
cool.
who could remember what it was like to get wasted in public.
Are you friends with any other like local RVA artists?
Oh God, yeah. There's this lady, Lena. I can't think of her last name. She runs Bristles and Design. It's she does like a lot of the live guest paintings.
Yeah.
There is, oh God, now if I don't call someone out, they're like, you don't know me. Doug, or I don't know how to say his name, last name, Orlsky.
Yes.
He does the RVA coffee stain.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, I've met him once or twice. Very nice guy, so friendly. He's like, oh, we should collab on something. But when someone says that, either you or them,
usually a formality.
Yeah.
But we have a coffee.
Linda, go ahead.
We have a coffee. What's his coffee? RVA coffee stand. We have a RVA coffee stand corner in our living room.
Do you?
Because all of our art is Richmond themed.
You need.
So we're gonna have to get some from you for sure.
Yeah, you do. Speaking of coffee, I painted all the coffee shops with coffee from each coffee shop.
That's cool.
Yeah. So Linda Hollett, I think her last name is Zuzi. Yeah, she's a lot of the people over at Crossroads Art Center.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of them, and now I'm like having this serious brain fart on all of them. But yeah.
How did you? It seems like you have a pretty solid grasp on the business side of this, especially like as the solopreneur. How did you get a grasp on that? Did you have a mentor? How did you learn?
I have to say, my partner, Lynn, is probably, I know sometimes people are like, oh, my wife, she's the one who did the thing and set me off. And it's like a formality. They have to say that, but she saw my work, and when 2020 hit, I was working for a company, and it was just, I was starting to do art, and she was like, COVID hit, and they were like, hey, we're gonna have to go ahead and start cutting back on stuff, and I'm starting to look for jobs and stuff. And she said, you're always working for other people and doing art for them and helping almost run it, like wine and design and paint nice stuff. She said, why don't you do it yourself? And I was like, I don't know if I can. She's like, no, I think you really should. She's like, how about this? For the next 3 to 5 years, focus on that. Like, I'll help you with the organization, because God knows I suck at organization. It is awful. It is god awful. And
tell us how you really feel about organization.
Man, I hate it because, and I'm better when I'm organized, but I like the chaos. But then I hate it because then I can't find that eraser that I need for that specific thing, and then I start cussing, and then she's like, "Hey, Meemaw's upstairs," but she was the one who kind of like just kind of gave me that kick in the pants of, I think you need to move, you need to do this. And I think it's just a matter of volume, of constantly doing the thing that you love. And I will always be forever grateful for her for putting that structure in my life. So
is there any lessons, advice you would offer to other artists, maybe that you've learned in the last, it sounds like you've really started to find your footing in the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would pass on to other people that maybe save them that year or two that you were searching?
I don't know if I can save you the year or two. I there are so many jokes that I want to go down a road with that, but I mean, it's you have to put in the time.
Gotta lay the pipe.
You have to lay the.
You gotta lay the pipe.
You gotta lay the pipe. Now, you gotta really get in there and get your feet dirty. And it's not just, I don't want to be cliched. It's not what you want, but why do you want it? Like, why do you want that thing? And setting yourself a goal for. Yeah, and your goals are going to change. As you, at least if you aim for a target, you might miss, but at least you're somewhere. You're like, hey, I thought I wanted to do illustration, but I really like to do portraits. You don't find that if you're not setting yourself up for something. And it's just the amount of discipline that you have to put into it, and it's the environment that you're in. If you're not in an environment to be able to create, you're not going to do it. It's the old joke about not a joke, but a story about the ant that's who's trying to go north, and he's on the back of a elephant that's going south. It's like he's in the wrong environment the whole time. And I think that no matter how disciplined you are, if you don't have the right headspace in the environment, you're not going to be able to create. And one more thing is that when you start to create, there are things, you have to create for what the market wants. And there are so many artists that say, well, I don't want to be a sellout. It's like, okay, well, go to the job that you hate every day. Just keep doing that. I'm sure that you'll feel better in the next 40 years. Yes, you're going to fail, but like, I don't remember what guy said it. He said, I make music. The music that sells is not the music that I like to create. The music that I like to create actually sells the least. But I make that so that I can create these other things. And so, yeah, I don't know if that's good advice, but that's the only advice that I can give, is that setting your sight to something and creating for the market that you're in, Well,
and let me add to that, and you can comment on what I'm going to say, which is, yes, I fully agree with you. I don't think that there even is such a thing as a sellout these days as an artist. I think in 2024, like, it's almost changed. I mean, the biggest actors in the world are doing commercials for grape soda, like, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's
true.
I think that has kind of changed. But what I was going to say is, which I think is adjacent to what you're saying, is whatever you do not make your goal fame.
I will agree with that.
And because I think that creates all sorts of toxicity, and you can't even make it, which is an adjacent goal, extreme financial success. That can be in the back of your mind of, I want to have extreme financial success, but you got to take your goals one step at a time.
Well, yeah.
You got to make the painting. You got to put the painting up to sell. You know what I mean? You got to do things one at a time. You can't just be like, all right, I'm going to make a bunch of paintings, I'm going to get rich, and I'm going to get famous. Or I'm going to be an actor, and I'm going to go to Hollywood, and I'm going to get cast. No, there's like things you got to do first. You got to you got to step with your left foot before your right foot,
or something like
that.
Yeah.
I don't have as cool sayings as you, like a ant walking north and an elephant's back going south. I don't have.
I have TED like Talks. I have TED Talks and podcasts, but that's all. But no, I don't. When someone says, "Well, I want to lose weight," well, okay, well, how much do you want to lose? And then, okay, now you've lost 20 pounds or 40 pounds or whatever you've done. Wait, now what? You lost it. Would you just get back to go back? No, it's not about getting in shape. It's staying in shape. It's not getting married. It's staying married. It's not getting in business. It's staying in. And so it's not like, very few authors and artists are going to do that one thing and it's going to take off. Like, get that out of your mind. Your chances of that happening, it's like, writers will say, I don't want to get my work plagiarized. It's like, no, you have a bigger chance of nobody ever reading your work, so just do the work. Focus on, and another thing I hear a lot of artists say, they'll say, I want to paint what I like. And it's like, well, okay, well, that's why they're in your house, because you like them. Nobody likes what you like. So you have to create what people like. You can paint for yourself, but paint for the market, but paint it as though if this was going to go in my house, how would I create? Like,
right.
I don't like Jimi Hendrix, but if I'm going to paint Jimi Hendrix, how would I like it if it was in my house, or whatever that thing is,
Taking the ego out of it is really all you're talking about.
No, artists are by birth, we are narcissists.
Yeah.
You have to have a little bit of narcissism in you.
Yeah.
And
Up to a certain point, and then I think if you reach a certain level of success, you don't need it anymore.
oh no, I mean I totally agree with you. I was just kind of joking, like, oh no, you got to be in. No,
but you do have to be to a certain degree.
You do have to be, but you always have to know that, if you set your goal and saying, I want to be the best, I don't know, portrait artist in the world, it's like you can get that goal up. You will never be the best, because there's somebody, even if you're better than that guy, somebody's going to want that guy's work more than yours. That's okay. And, taking your ego out, like, you would not believe how many times, and I've talked to other artists who've done the same. They'll say they root for other artists, but there's a little bit of jealousy inside when they get the award or they get the accolades or and you're like, yay.
I suffered from that really bad until I met my wife.
Really? She knocked your ego out?
It kind of went away.
Really?
It's so interesting. But we also, it all happened during the dark times.
Okay, all right.
And we were both in the theater, and we both kind of decided to take a step away from it, just out of necessity for no other reason. But I think that I had a really big realization that pretty much every theatrical thing I had done was entirely because of my ego. Like, there was almost no other reason. It wasn't money.
Yeah.
Maybe in some instances it was definitely to make friends. So maybe there's like 25% of it was to make friends. But most of the shows I was doing, I already knew everybody in the cast. So like, what am I doing this for?
Well, I think when we go into the creative fields or the entertainment fields, we see the Damien Hirsts up there who are making millions a year, or the NBA players who are making millions a year. We don't see the hundreds of thousands that don't even have enough to pay health insurance. You had a gentleman on, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He talked about, and it was so, I wish there were more conversations with people like him where he talked about giving up. And he was like, I can't do it anymore. And then he kept coming back. And he talked about like the failure of it. Like, nobody talks it. You see the spotlight on, the guy who made it into the NBA. You didn't see 200,000 people got passed up. Those guys who didn't get the dream. And so you're absolutely right. Taking your ego out of it, it's so difficult to do. But putting that mirror back in your face. Yeah.
Do you know the author Ryan Holiday?
Heard of the author, do not know.
Stoic. He's a Stoic philosopher.
Yes.
He has a book called The Ego is the Enemy.
Okay.
I have that tattooed on my chest.
Okay. So
I'm not going to show you that one.
Okay. Your wife looks at that every day.
No, it's backwards. So when I look in the mirror.
Oh, well, I thought it was like so your wife could look at it and be like, hey, look at this.
I guess I should have led with that. No, it's backwards. When the tattoo artist was doing it on me, I mean, it's teeny. It's insignificant. It's just bigger. He was like, that was one of the hardest tattoos I've ever done because it was messing with my brain, like trying to write these letters that I'm familiar with backwards.
And I'm assuming that it's that small to like for a reason, to show that like you're small. You're not. Yeah. You're just a speck here.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, that's actually pretty good.
Strongly recommend. I'm not a big reader, but his books have really impacted me to the point where I literally wanted it inked on my body.
Yeah, I'm not a big reader, but I like to listen to audiobooks.
He does his own.
Yeah, YouTube has a whole book section and stuff, and so I'll tell someone like I just started reading Jurassic Park, the book, but I'm I'm actually listening to it, so I'm not.
Is anyone famous narrating it?
I don't know who the hell this dude is,
Okay.
but he's pretty good because
Yeah.
he tries to do the voices and stuff,
Okay,
and you're,
yeah.
you're like, yeah, don't do a woman's voice. Just I hate it when they do
Yeah.
that, and they're like, well, I don't know how. And I'm like, stop, just don't call someone in to do that part. You sound stupid.
So coming up on the end of our time, what is something that you're excited about and looking forward to that's coming up?
I have an art show at the Swift Creek Mill in November.
So your mural will be done by then?
It will be, the mural, but I have an actual art. They're going to have the mural there, but I have a bunch of pieces that I have to create for that. And I'm constantly creating anyway. So it's just a matter of figuring out how to, do something for that audience that's going to be there. Expanding what I do, I have artwork at Crossroads Art Center. I have artwork at the Painted Tree in Glen Allen. And I'm planning to try to get up into Northern Virginia into a star there. And I think it's just, you're talking about doing the work and putting in the time. When people see that, they're like, oh man, how'd you get there? And I'm like, it was just a little piece at a time, and you just constantly creating a new one, and from there making prints of that. And I think a lot of artists undervalue they don't think about how powerful prints are, because Linnane, one of the things she told me when I first started, she said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a household name. And she said, well, what are you doing to do that? And I just stumbled on myself because nobody had ever challenged me on that. Everyone's like, oh, that's cool, But she was like, what does that mean? To be a household name, you have to be in people's houses. And I just stumbled over myself like this child who'd gotten caught thinking they knew what they were talking about. And, my artwork was priced so high, $500, $2,000, whatever. And she said, not everybody has $2,000 to drop on a piece of art. But they do have $10 for a print or $20. I was like, well, I don't want to, sell out, myself. And she said, oh, okay, well, just keep putting in your job applications. Let's see where that goes. And I was like, damn, that's so good. And so when I got a lot of requests. And it just so happened that's when I did the monument. It like everything that could have come together, I should have, maybe if I'd have talked to psychic Sylvia Brown earlier in my life, she would have told me to do that. But all the stars aligned right then, and it came together. So, yeah.
Pretty amazing story.
Well, thank you. You should have her on one day. She's a pretty amazing human being.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will you introduce me?
I would love to introduce you to her. And where to find her. So yeah,
I do.
Right in the studio, right here. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. Linnane is.
Oh no, I thought you were talking about your psychic.
Oh no, hell no! No.
I'll talk to a psychic.
No, Sylvia. Oh God, no, I was joking. I've never. I think she's dead, anyways. Have you ever seen those where they have the psychics that come someone died in this house and blah blah, and they're like, yeah, it's just a set. Nobody died here.
Do you remember Mallrats?
No.
Okay. There's a famous psychic scene of Mallrats. I don't want to spoil it for you because it's pretty amazing.
All right. No, I didn't see Mallrats.
Okay.
Who's in it?
Mallrats, that is an early Kevin Smith film, maybe one of his first films.
Really?
Yeah.
I could tell you on one. I've never seen a Kevin Smith movie in my life that I can think of.
That is pretty much the only one that you should watch.
Okay. All right.
It'll remind you of childhood a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of being in a cult?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
No, probably not then. Probably not then. Have you watched any of those cult docs that are on Netflix?
Oh yeah. With
it's not too hard for you?
No. There are moments definitely where you have a flashback or a moment. It doesn't affect me so much more. I more or less feel sympathy, or is it empathy? I don't know.
Yeah.
For the people when you watch it, because you see people in that, you're like, "Hey, how did you get in that? That's just stupid." But then you're like, "Wait, no, you were there too."
Are there any of them that you've seen that mirrored your experience?
A little bit. Some of them are the extremes that are just over the top extremes.
NXIVM.
Yeah. Some of those, even in the cult that I was in, I would hear about sexual abuse. Nobody in our family that I know of experienced it. But that's not to discount the people who went through that. But yeah, we knew of girls who were that were like married off to older guys and stuff like that.
Really?
So,
Wow.
yeah. But we were, I don't know, blessed is the word I want to use in that we weren't, that our parents did kind of shield us from some of those things. So,
And then you got out of it completely when you went
I
to the
got out
Army.
of it. I went hardcore and went way too far and drank coffee. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Beans. That's what we call them.
Coffee
Beans. Bean
yeah.
juice.
Yeah, bean juice. Yeah. So, but I didn't, I went down a road where like depression and just really, and I don't even know it was depression. It's more sadness, just because there was a sense of hopelessness that everything you believed is wrong. It's wrong. And it feels like a Mandela effect. Like, I don't know, like everything that I thought was true was not true. And yeah. So it's an empty feeling. You wasted so much of your life believing something.
Have you ever painted anything that was like an expression of that?
No, I tried to, but it became out a little bit too dark. And I'm like, why the hell am I doing this?
Yeah.
I like happy things.
Yeah.
And so it's just, if you're not happy, you're doing it wrong. So
Yeah, don't force it.
no, don't force it. And it's like, I'll deal with it. Because the thing is that I don't need to paint it. Because, like, I think the reason why you hear about tortured artists so much is you're in front of a canvas for hours.
Yeah.
And most of it is, unless you're learning something, it's through rote. You're mixing your blues with your reds and your whites and your green, and you're creating. And you have nothing but time to think. That's it. And there's, like, thing just constantly, like on a DVD, just going through your mind over. And you have to, walk away sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah, but
That's
it's
a good lesson.
yeah.
Gotta walk away sometimes.
walk away.
So tell me a little bit about the Innocence Project.
So if it goes back to the monument, the Innocence Project is an organization that they verify if people who are in prison are truly innocent or guilty, and they do it through DNA testing. America has the highest prison population on the planet. We have 2 million people in prison, which is 1 million more than China. They have 1 billion people. And what the Innocence Project does is through that DNA, they've been able to exonerate, I don't know how many people from death row, life sentences, people who, it wasn't just that they didn't commit the crime, but it was impossible for them to have committed the crime. The amount of evidence tampering from police and law enforcement, and I know it when you start talking about these, it sounds like you're beating up on the police, and I'm not. But there's Brian Banks is the one that kind of came to national spotlight. He was accused of I know I probably have to be careful with the words that I use, but he was accused of forcibly taking advantage of a woman, and he was offered a plea deal. He didn't do it, and he took the plea. He was a young kid, 17, 18, just young. And he got, I want to say like 30 years or something like that. And I don't remember exactly how everything happened, but the girl, she got $2 million, and kind of find out she was found on like video saying, yeah, it never happened. Mm-hmm. And he got out of his prison, but he still, if I'm not mistaken, he still had to register as a sex offender. But he was supposed to play for, like, I think he was a lot of this might be wrong, but like the Philadelphia Eagles were scouting him, and he lost out on all of that. And so their whole goal is to go in and exonerate people who, if they didn't do it, whatever, and they try to get them off. And so I just thought, well, I can't do anything to change the system, but I can donate to an organization that does. So 10% of my art sales goes to the Innocence Project. Because like I said, I can't do anything about how the system has been set up, but at least I can try to help out in some way. So, when I tell people, oh, buy my art, it's like, well, when you are buying my art, you're also, the more that I sell, the more goes to them. So, and it's pre-tax. So I know I get taxed on stuff, but I actually, if something sells for $100, $10 pre-tax goes to the Innocence Project. Mm-hmm. So.
That's awesome. How long have you been doing that?
Since literally 2020.
Yeah.
That was. I watched a documentary on Netflix. I don't know if it's still there anymore, but it's called The 13th Amendment, and it talks about slavery and how, the 13th Amendment keeps you and me from owning slaves, but not the U.S. government. They can still do it, and that's how they do it. It's just that little word in there, that little line that allows them that opportunity. And nobody they're like, oh no, it would never happen to me. Yeah, there's a lot of people who have a life sentence because they didn't think it would happen to them either. So, and cops can legally lie to you. So, you probably want to edit that out, but I'm just
Yeah, that last part.
no, they really can. They are allowed to. They really can.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway.
No, I mean, the only reason I'm just pausing because so much is going through my mind. But no, I think we're good. Is there anything else you want to say about the Innocence Project?
Oh no, but yeah, I mean, if anybody, it's just the Innocence Project. I think it's .org. I don't go to the website anymore. Just click on the link to donate. And I know there are some like the Innocence Project California, the Innocence Project Virginia stuff, but those are like separate organizations, and they all do good things. But I just kind of just go to their website and donate to them because I think what they do is a force for good. So,
John, where can people find you? Where can people purchase your art? You've said some places already.
yes, they can go to my Etsy store, John Price Art. They can find me on Instagram, John Price Art, TikTok, John Price Art, Facebook, John Price Art, my website, johnpricefineart.com. I know.
Who has John Price Art?
Some gentleman. He won't sell it to me. I think the last price I was quoted was $25,000, and I was like, no, I'm good. Yeah. But I haven't. I should check. I mean, that was like 3 years ago. I should check to see if he wasn't doing anything with the website. And I was like,
kick the bucket. Maybe that thing's available on GoDaddy. You don't know.
You know what? When we get finished, I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna see because it's been like the last time was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and it was the same stuff. And I was like, dude, you're not. And I reached out, and he was like, yeah. He's like, we can do like 25,000. I was like, come on, dude, you're not even doing anything with it. But it was his, and so I was like, okay, I've got johnpricefineart.com.
Yeah.
And it, Crossroads Art Center and the Painted Tree out in Glen Allen.
Painted Tree out in Glen Allen.
Painted Tree, yeah. Have you been there?
No, where's that?
Do you know where the old Christmas store used to be?
Yeah.
All right, so there's a Michael's. Oh God, it's on West Broad. It's like there's the Tesla. There's the Michael's, and right across the street, it's like the old Christmas something. And I think there's a Mexican restaurant.
What is this? What type of store is it?
It's more like a boutique, and so people will sell their philosophical sayings like "Live, Laugh, Love," and mugs, and Christopher Mize is in there. I don't know if you know who Christopher Mize is. Yeah. He with the wine, and he's got a booth in there, and it's just a lot of local artisans.
That's cool.
Yeah. There's a little bit of stereotypical, keychains, and you can clearly tell they rip stuff off of Etsy.
Sure.
But there are a lot of really talented artists in there, and I think I'm one of the only out of maybe 5 or 6 artists who do like prints and stuff like that. Yeah. But most of it is tumblers and shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a great place for gifts and stuff like that. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, John, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate you talking to me.